this was part of a nationwide effort funded by NIH, um, and looking at uh, opioid use issues in rural parts of the country. We were part of a 8 sites around the country. We're looking at the issue of opioid use disorder in rural areas, and we were the New England node looking at 11 counties in Massachusetts, one county in Massachusetts, and the other remaining 5 counties, each in New Hampshire and Vermont. Um, so that was sort of the context that that prior work occurred. So this particular study was part of a two-phase, was the second phase of a two-phase project. The first phase was completed between 2017 and 2019, just before the pandemic. Um, and what it was a epidemiologic and environmental scan of these rural communities in northern New England, in Vermont, New Hampshire, and northwestern Massachusetts. What we found was that in these rural counties in Vermont and New Hampshire, amongst individuals with opiate use disorder and injection drug use, there were very high rates of hepatitis C seropositivity. The rates in southern Vermont were 54%. It was as high as 66% in New Hampshire. And there were very high rates of sharing of injection equipment, as high as 65% of subjects interviewed in New Hampshire. And so this raised for us the question of how do you improve access to sterile injection equipment, as well as hepatitis C testing and treatment in this rural population. Um, the other thing that was of note in that project is the sort of limited access to effective treatment for Hep C, limited access to phlebotomy, which is essential uh, uh, to getting folks worked up. So our conclusion was that for the second phase of the project, we really wanted an intervention that would go out to these communities and reach these folks, and effectively um, link them to Hep C treatment. Yeah, so the second phase, we wanted to look at whether it at the time, this was in 2019, prior to the pandemic, so telemedicine was sort of a was considered novel at the time, and we were interested in whether actually you could deliver telemedicine from a van, um, uh, and have the van go out to areas where there was high prevalence of injection use, injection behavior, and Hep C sort of go together. And the idea was to do the harm reduction work along with the Hep C treatment and sort of compare that to what we called enhanced usual care, which basically was referral to a local or regional provider, with some care navigation from our staff, helping folks get appointments, et cetera. But still, folks had to get to the site in order to do that rather than sort of having the treatment come to them. Yeah, I mean, the key things that we found, so we hypothesized that folks who were randomized to the telemedicine on the van would have higher rates of initiation of treatment for Hep C, and subsequently higher cure rates, clearance or 12 at 12 weeks, sustained virologic response. And um, we had sort of a third idea that treating, and this was based on some work from urban areas, that um, treating Hep C would, uh, in order for folks to want to avoid reinfection, that it would change syringe and equipment sharing behavior, particularly in concert with improved access to hygienic equipment, which is what we were providing on the van. So those are sort of the three ideas. And what we showed was quite dramatically that there was greatly improved initiation in the intervention group, also higher rates of cure. But the hypothesis around sharing behavior was not supported. So clearly, the higher rates of cure. So amongst people who actually went to the first appointment, even in the in the control group, the comparison group, if you those folks um, ended up having similar cure rates. It really was sort of the initiation, getting the treatment to folks that really made the difference. Um, and still, there were fairly high rates of folks not uh, uh, following through. Um, there was some other work recently uh, that suggested, the combination with peer workers and some other things, some adjunctive interventions to help encourage folks to follow through would be helpful. That would be useful to look at in this context in a van. Um, Unfortunately, uh, the follow up study to this was not funded, um, so we won't actually be able to do that. But I think what's interesting is that if you get people to start treatment, you can get them started. You know, cure rates are in the 60s, which is slightly lower than some of the trials, but pretty good for a population like this. So it's really about getting treatment initiated, and mobile telemedicine is one way to do that really effectively, providing folks with transportation and peer support, sort of as another approach that some work suggests is useful. Um, but it's really about getting folks started, and as part of that, they have to get the workup, the phlebotomy, all the other things that sort of go into, and the access to the provider, the clinic. Sorry, the access to the clinician. I prefer that expression. Um, but once you do that, folks do get, have reasonable cure rates. So I think that's really what uh, we showed. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I wanted to highlight other than that is sort of the what goes on the van is more than it's more than just having a van and sending it out. It's also about the nature of the team that you have. Uh, you want to there are a lot of treatment interruptions in this population, um, and this population really does require a lot of support in order to initiate and complete treatment. And so having workers, people who are working on the van or working in the setting who are really familiar and comfortable and able to work in sort of a non-stigmatizing, non-judgmental way with this population is really critical.